Today, we are doing a 2-round 2026 NFL mock draft. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. It is not predictive. These are the players that I love in the order that I love them. I grade exclusively in all 22 tape. I do have positional ranking videos out for a few positions already, and we're going to get a ton more out over the next month to month and a half. I'm super excited about that. Get locked in. If you want to see my full board, all my evaluations, and for those positional videos, extended ones that have more players, feel free to go over to the Patreon. $5 a month. That's it. And we're going to be jumping immediately into 2027. But let's get into this. No trades, 2 rounds. Let's have a great video. So, number 1 overall, for the sake of the matter, sake of our time, it is Fernando Mendoza. I'm going to blend my board with realism. I'm not going to go exclusively off my board because of what I would do mock draft. Is something that we'll end up doing, but I do want to, especially since it's post-combine, end up having a standardized mock draft that reflects what I think is going to happen. It's going to be pretty much realistic, but again, I like to throw my own little curveball because free agency hasn't happened yet, so we can try to have some fun little twists. Number 2 overall for the New York Jets, this is the big ticket question. What are they going to do here? They trade away Jermaine Johnson, acquire Tavondre Sweat. They run, cover 4, 3-4 system. I really like the idea of Sonny Styles here not Sonny Styles. I mean, Sonny Styles wouldn't be a bad selection. Don't get me wrong. I meant Arvell Reese or David Bailey. Arvell Reese, a hybrid edge rusher as well as linebacker. Not really a huge fan of the fact they have him listed solely as a linebacker here. Even NFL had him listed as an edge. He did test with the linebackers, to be fair. And that does make me think that there's some questions as to whether Arvell Reese is viewed more as a linebacker or an edge. The Jets do need to generate extra pressure. David Bailey would be a little bit more of that pass rushing presence off the bat, but I would prefer someone who's a little bit more balanced to be a full-time edge rusher, and Arvell Reese has been able to show to set the edge a lot better than David Bailey. To me, he is the better selection here at number 2. Doesn't really have any off-field concerns at all. It depends on how much you weigh the concerns with Bailey. 2024 NC State ended up curb stomping a dude after a play, ends up assaulting a cameraman after the ASU game this past year. You can end up valuing that however you like. That did happen. You could choose however much you value it. At least Arvell Reese, I haven't heard of anything that is a negative off the field or at least, non-football related. So that's going to be the selection right there. Again, also, because he's more of a pure linebacker / edge rusher, you get to utilize him in a multitude of ways that, in my opinion, David Bailey doesn't have the full flexibility for, especially off the bat. Number 3 for Arizona. A lot of people want to throw Jeremiah Love's name in here and, get them that top end running back. And I had an argument with Bro Schmo earlier today talking about when I'm going to be taking Jeremiah Love. And, there's a lot of reasons for certain teams. And the one I'm going to select him to, it's going to be someone that's going to ruffle some feathers. It's not going to be the Arizona Cardinals because the Cardinals have a ton of needs that need to be filled before this. And this is not going to be a system that, in my opinion, maximizes Jeremiah Love's offensive potential. Like, LaFleur ended up having, 3rd-round running backs continuously kicking ass. They replenish in that range. I highly doubt he's going to change his drafting philosophy for this. I think he understands the value of offensive line. And it might be the fact that Maui Noah is, a top 10, top 15 player in the class, and you're taking him at 3, and that sucks. But this is someone who's going to last on your team for 10 to 15 years. That's just going to be true. He is a really reliable offensive lineman. He's shown up in big moments, and you look at other positions that they need, it doesn't make any sense to go anywhere else. Like Ruben Bain has his arm length concern. Caleb Downs is a safety. I don't really think, because he's very similar to Budda Baker, not going to really provide very much unless you're wanting to move on from Budda Baker, which again, I don't necessarily think should be the move. Jeremiah Love provides something awesome for the offense, but I don't think this is the offense to maximize that value. Sonny Styles is possible, but again, I don't trust the defensive coordinator to maximize the linebacker value of Sonny Styles. So, maybe if they ended up getting, Shieldhouse at OC and, Shula at head coach, I'd feel a lot more comfortable maximizing that value. I'm not going to be there. I'm going to go CC Maui Noah, right tackle out of Miami. He said, I can play any single position you want. I just want to be on the field and help out my team. I love the mentality. I love the fact that he's risen up in huge moments. Honestly, I owe him a bump as well. So he's going to end up inching into that blue chip territory. Number 4 for the Tennessee Titans. Another big one here. Some people want Ruben Bain. They did just acquire an edge rusher, but technically speaking, Ruben Bain could end up being the Keon White role that San Francisco had. They could also go Caleb Downs, high-quality defensive player. You have a defensive head coach. You can look at Sonny Styles. Linebacker's not a primary issue on this team, but sometimes strengthening a strength ends up actually allowing your team, especially on a weak defense, to at least have an identity. David Bailey. I mean, you do need multiple edge rushers here. You can talk about Carnell Tate. He's not going to be a true number one. No one wants him to be a true number one. No one wants Carnell Tate to be a true one. His best work is being an elite number 2. He's going to carve the defense up with good route running ability, reliable hands, and just very consistent play. That's not what the Titans necessarily are looking for. They want a game changer. They want an offensive weapon. And you could talk about, again, David Bailey here for the defense, but you do have Femi Oladejo coming back. David Bailey will probably play 250, 300 snaps minimum. Maybe he gets up to 500 like Bryce Huff. There's a chance for that. But you have Robert Saleh, who just came from San Francisco, understands the value of running back. You have Brian Dable, who is part of the team that utilized a number 2 overall pick on a running back in Saquon Barkley and has not been the same since he left. These are 2 different minds that understand the value of an identity of an offense that goes to the running back. And not many teams have the foundation that the Titans do in a young rookie quarterback with a lot of money and a strong defensively minded coach. That's very hard to find. And you have now a 1-2 punch. You might say running back's a little bit too early, Alex. Don't do that. And it is a little bit early for me. I have Jeremiah Love at 13 on my board. That is positional value right there. If it is without positional value, I think he would end up being number 4 on my board just based on how I end up grading linebacker, wide receiver, safety, maybe number 5. So he's still a top 5 player for me talent-wise, and that's why the Titans could absolutely use him. If they suck next year, the 2 positions we're passing on is edge and wide receiver here, right? If they suck next year, we're also technically passing on offensive tackle if you want to look at Monroe Freeling as a possible option. I don't here. But in those 3 positions, next year's draft class is stacked. And I know we say it every year, but we've actually started watching ahead because we get disappointed every single time with the draft classes. It's different next year. If you are absolutely atrocious and it's because your wide receiver core is ass, you couldn't acquire a wide receiver, you couldn't draft one in round 2, which we're going to be doing in today's episode, then you get Jeremiah Smith, you get Nick Marsh, Cam Coleman. That's solved. You look at, okay, maybe we needed an edge rusher. Our edge rushers didn't do enough. Jermaine Johnson didn't live up to anything, which you're going to draft an edge in this draft or get one in free agency, and I think that's a great move. Guess what's next year? Simmons, Stewart. There are really good names. If you want to wait till round 2 probably next year, Kenyatta Jackson. There are going to be some names that are going to pop up out of nowhere as well. But top-end defensive talent, there. Corner, I think you should definitely be looking at it in free agency. You got guys like Cordell Flott out there. I like those type of additions, especially for this defense. But you also end up looking at next year's class. Again, if you think solely corner is the problem and is going to be the last key, Leonard Moore. He exists. So there are players that absolutely deserve to be considered here. And I think David Bailey's a damn good one. But you're not going to find a Jeremiah Love next year, most likely. I highly doubt it. Ahmad Hardy is not a Jeremiah Love type of running back. And he's the one who I would say probably takes the cake. Frazier? No. So I don't necessarily see a way to truly justify Jeremiah Love being a bad pick. And then you look at tackle, you have Seaton next year, Gooseby next year. There are ways to solve every single primary issue in the first next year if you have big issues. If you do not, then you did something right. And that's what you need to do. I mean, think about it. The Patriots essentially ended up having a mediocre number 4 overall pick, had a new coach come in, defensive coach, young quarterback, mid receiving core, really solid running back core with a reliable defense. Granted, their corner core was elite, but they went to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying it's what the Titans are going to do, but it is a similar framework to build upon. And I think Jeremiah Love can give you the best option. I promise we're going to speed it up here, but really needed to hone in on that because that's a new development, as in Jeremiah Love running in the 4.36 range is going to be a super dynamic, super weapon for this team. And I don't think Kenneth Walker, if the Seahawks truly thought of him as an RB1, they're trading Zach by the trade deadline and they're signing his ass. RB1s don't cost that much money. That's why you don't find him out on the market. If he's out on the market, there's a reason for it. This is a true RB1 here with Jeremiah Love. Number 5, New York Giants. Let's keep this train moving. Caleb Downs, I saw one report. It is not confirmed from what I know, but he could have a degenerative knee condition. And apparently he had a meniscus issue that might have kept him off the field there for the combine. Feel free to drop your own information right there. I'm going to be continually looking at that, but I just ended up seeing that like 5 minutes before I recorded this. So that is a reason why you can end up being like, well, low value position, some potential health concerns right there. Not like going to drive me crazy, but Sonny Styles is going to be the selection here. Harbaugh coming from the Ravens. They traded a second round pick for Roquan Smith. The Ravens ideology has been established through some of the best linebackers in history. I think that they value linebacker and respect it. And Sonny Styles, some people call him the next Brian Urlacher. I don't care what you're going to call him. I'm just going to say it's going to be a reliable system. He's also a former safety, and you have a defensive backs coach from John Harbaugh's tenure in the Ravens who are going to be there. So he can maximize coverage capabilities with Sonny Styles that I like to see him still develop. And you already have the athletic potential and those run-stopping flashes. He can end up being someone who is well worth that top 5 selection. Number 6 for the Cleveland Browns. Good choices here. Tons of them, but offensive line is most important. And we used to just rush Spencer Fano in, and he is a damn good offensive lineman. I've already adjusted his grade. Guess what? Nothing changed. I already thought he had 32.75-inch arms, and I'm waiting till the pro days to like really hone in on dude's arm lengths because last year, 46 out of 48 guys ended up having ended up having longer arm lengths at their pro days. I'm not going to go like crazy because he had 32 and an eighth. I'm just going to say he even did some center stuff, so at least he's self-aware of it. Love the mentality, but I'm not writing him off as a tackle just yet. However, Monroe Freeling has moved up to 17th on my board. He is a true tackle. He has over 34-inch arms. He is a little bit inexperienced, but this is a Cleveland Browns team that absolutely needs to end up continuing to invest in its offensive line. So I really like what they're doing so far. I think they're going to continue to attack and address the offensive line as they have a lot of free agents coming up. So I really do like what they're doing. However, I think Monroe Freeling, with the flexibility at left and right tackle, provides a really stable foundation. And the fact that the Browns are not necessarily in championship window yet allows him to get a year under his belt in the NFL before really having to step up to the plate in the biggest moments. I'm going to go Monroe Freeling there at number 6. And it feels like the common selection, and it has nothing to do with his combine performance. It's the fact that he ended up testing out the way we thought he would. It just confirmed it, and he is one of those guys who's one of the few true tackles. And it's Spencer Fano's arm length that really does like increase the risk with him that you don't really have with Freeling. At number 7 for the Commanders, a plethora of great targets here. I think they run David Bailey's card in. They want edge rusher to help. David Bailey just, again, not really a big asset on rundowns. I don't think it's as bad as those who say he's somebody who's a liability. I don't think he's a liability. I think that he is just not an asset. And that is going to be an issue for a lot of teams that there's just a lot of DPRs out there. There are a lot of designated pass rushers that are in the NFL. Dudes who are just really good athletes that you're going to put on the field during passing downs. David Bailey's not a pure DPR. I think he's a balanced edge rusher, but he is far from somebody that should be a reliable edge one versus the run. The Commanders are not in a position to choose. And so David Bailey is going to be my selection there because the talent makes sense. He's someone who could go as high as number 2, but there are some off-field red flags that you need to check out. And it depends. Are you going to value it? Are you not going to value it? We'll see if that ends up becoming a factor. But David Bailey tested out extraordinarily well. We all knew he would. So there's no reason to double bump him for that. But he is just somebody who ended up performing very well, and it's a team that needs him. The Giants aren't probably going to go edge. The one that you could talk about is right here with the Titans. The Browns aren't going to go edge. So, like, conclusively, you end up seeing him slip to number 7. Number 8 for the New Orleans Saints. Very good options all around. You could end up going after Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Caleb Downs, or Ruben Bain. All of them realistic decisions. Mansour Delane, if you end up having Alontae Taylor out the door, it's not impossible to say, why not continue investing in our corner position and put Mansour at the nickel? I don't think he's worth the number 8 overall pick if that's the role you're putting him in, but I'm just trying to put it out there that there at least could be some consideration for, in my opinion, arguably the best player who's left on the board. Now, you can also end up tossing Jordan Tyson in that equation. He's still dealing with that lingering hamstring. I think there are some teams that'll feel very uncomfortable with that. I personally am going to go after Carnell Tate here. People are saying, oh, I'm not a fan because he ran a slow 40. We ran a slower 40 than what we would expect for him. You combine that with how he ended off versus that Miami game, which was just an anomaly. I don't know if I can give him a full mulligan for that. However, I still do have my concern. He is a true 2. This is Chris Olave's receiving core. This is a perfect spot for him to be the true 2. And at number 8, I feel comfortable with that. So I feel a lot better about Carnell Tate here on the Saints than most players. Reliable, dynamic, and again, able to step up if injuries do occur, because I know Chris Olave is not the most reliable guy on earth health-wise. Knock on wood, that ends up changing. I'm very excited for that to happen. Number 9 for the Kansas City Chiefs. We got to start looking at how the team is identity-wise. These are organizations. These are businesses. And so you're going to do what you can to maximize your identity and make yourself the best version of what you could be. Pretty self-explanatory. Doesn't require a degree in rocket science to understand it. But the identity of the Chiefs is Patrick Mahomes. They don't have jack shit on offense. Patrick Mahomes coming off a season-ending knee injury that is late in the year. That's a lot on his plate. The offensive line, they just released Taylor. If we end up seeing Monroe Freeling on the board, that's someone who I'm going after. Because I like the interior offensive line to enough of a degree, I'm not looking at Spencer Fonto here, but I at least am open to it. They do show, based on their previous drafting history, they care about arm length. They care about those measurables. I highly doubt that they're going to end up going and selecting Spencer Fonto for this, even if I think that would be the best move for them. Edge rusher Ruben Bain could be fantastic. You can kick him to the inside on certain downs, kick him back out to the outside. I just think he doesn't meet the measurable threshold that Spags is going to want for his edge rushers, and he didn't test at the combine. I don't know exactly fully why, but it's pretty clear he wouldn't have tested in the same category as how incredibly well the rest of the group tested. So I think it was smart of him to hold out. I think the best move is to maintain the identity of this team. You could talk about Mekhi Lemon. There's some stuff where I don't know how much I trust the interview stuff, but I will say, and you'll call me boomer for this, you'll call me an idiot, I understand. I don't like him on a personal level. Like, the personality connection, not there. And it's not just him doing the little staring to your soul, trying to seduce you. Like, sorry, dude, it's not 2 a.m. at the bar and I'm not the last girl there. It's not even that. I ended up seeing someone try to say, oh, look at this interview with Chris Sims. And it was so manufactured. And there's another player I've talked to, and, I actually like him as a player, similar to Mekhi. But when I asked him a question, I could tell it was just legalese, agentese, bullshit, memorized answers. It's not real. So that's, for me, that's a big thing. And if people are saying he bombed his interviews, I'm not going to doubt that that's possible. I just don't necessarily know who the source is, so I don't trust that. So I'm not going to drop him because of that. I'm just going to say that's my 2 cents on the situation. I think the Chiefs need to keep the identity on the offense. The offensive tackle group, not worth it at number 9. But there's a position similar to what I was just talking about, Jeremiah Love at RB1. Tight end 1s are not made available. They aren't. You have to draft them, or else you have to trade for them. And there's not any that are up on the trade market to be a true 1. Teams hold on to those like they clutch to pearls. They're not expensive. So if you're a true 1 and you matter a lot to an offense, you are going to be paid by the team that you are drafted by. Similarly, Kenyon Sadiq is the most athletic tight end ever. Look at the numbers. He ran 23 miles per hour on his 40-yard dash, 23.2. He literally ran at the speed of Jahmyr Gibbs. And that's not the only reason you're drafting Kenyon Sadiq. He did have a down year this past year. He did have some uncomfortable drops. However, when you watch the effort he has when he blocks, and he has quite a few pancake blocks on his record, on top of that, the after the catch ability is so underrated at this point. I don't understand how people can neglect it. Watch him in 2024 versus Penn State. Right off the bat, he takes a screen or a bubble, and he ends up taking it, or it might have been a tunnel screen. He takes a short pass, and he just hurdles a guy and hauls downfield, and he is so unique. You will not find another player with his exact skill set. So, are you overpaying by taking Kenyon Sadiq at 9? Absolutely. He did not have the year production-wise, and he does have some concerns. But you do not have the opportunity of finding a Kenyon Sadiq. And the risk and reward of Kenyon Sadiq reaching his ceiling, especially on a team where the Chiefs don't need him to take on that big of a workload off the bat, is so worth it. It's immeasurable. Kenyon Sadiq needs to be on the Chiefs. If you can trade down and do it, do it. But you sometimes have to buy exclusivity, even if you're paying too high of a price, because if it hits, you have something that no one else has, and it's for a fraction of the cost of a receiver that would have that impact. Number 10 for the Cincinnati Bengals. You got Caleb Downs here. You got Ruben Bain. You got Mansour Delane. I'm happy with all of it. Now, I do think Dax Hill needs to be on the boundary for the corner situation. That corner 2 spot definitely still open. I'm happy with all that. It is Caleb Downs and Ruben Bain. I will say if Caleb Downs truly has a degenerative knee condition, they're not going to bring him on. It just doesn't make sense based on positional value. And then you have a medical red flag there. There's a concern. He is my number 1 player in the class. But what makes me look at Ruben Bain, because you look at the Bengals draft philosophy in the first round, it's big, it's measurables, it's athleticism. Bain, athletic enough, insanely strong, doesn't have the measurables of the arm length, but is big. What makes me comfortable with Ruben Bain here at 10 is this. You guys ended up acquiring Antoine Powell-Ryland, who somehow, some way, measurables-wise, is really close to Ruben Bain. So at least you show the willingness to have that on your roster. And Ruben Bain was unstoppable. He really was. And if he has to kick to the interior for certain reps, I know Al Golden's going to eat that shit up because you need defensive interior help as well. So I like the flexibility he has. He's going to replace Trey Hendrickson. He has the run stuffing capabilities. He has the strength. And again, doesn't have that potential medical red flag. We're going to go Ruben Bain, edge rusher, out of Miami. At number 11 for the Miami Dolphins, I'm going to get executed on the spot by Cowboys fans. I already know it. And I'm sorry, Cowboys fans. But even with the degenerative condition, you end up getting an elite, possibly best player in the entire class. And if you're the Dolphins, you're going to play it safe. Most organizations, they go balls to the wall, or they go safe. And there's not a lot of amazing options here. There's not. Like, you can talk about Fano because of the flexibility at tackle, guard, center. Like, I do like that for him, absolutely. But what I love about Caleb Downs here is even with the knee condition, a lot of guys have been able to work in the NFL with degenerative conditions, but it is a reason they fall, and he's a safety. So I'm just saying realistically, he's going to possibly be at least in this range. Hopefully not. Hopefully the medicals come out on the second opinion. He's perfectly fine. We'll see. But a lot of new organizations go crazy or they go super safe. This is as super safe as you can get. This is also a head coach in Jeff Hafley who just ended up having a really, really impactful safety in Xavier McKinney. So he knows the value of a damn good safety. Caleb Downs, the selection there. Number 12, Dallas Cowboys. I am sorry to dangle that right in front of y'all and then take it right before you. I do apologize, and I love you guys to death. I know. Doesn't feel like it, but it's true. You do have your defensive coordinator as a defensive backs coach. In fact, a corners coach, because the Eagles had also a safeties coach. So he values corner talent. Mansour Delane is here. I think it's a phenomenal fit. Now, I know he's going to try to incorporate more of a Vic Fangio system, so maybe you want to go after someone who's a little more in tune with their zone coverage capabilities. Like, you could try to end up drafting, I don't really have a very good option here outside of, outside of Delane. You can talk about Jermon McCoy, for example. A little bit higher IQ maybe. And I mean, I don't even think so. I'm a little bit lower on McCoy. So that's why I'm kind of tripping up over my words. But honestly, at 20, Chris Johnson, definitely a name that you guys need to start getting. Not D'Angelo Pons. I love Pons, but what the fuck am I doing? There we go. Chris Johnson. He's great for a Vic Fangio style system. Obviously, Christian Parker from Vic Fangio's system, but Mansour Delane's a little bit smaller. Christian Parker's also dealt with Jair Alexander in the past, so I think that he's going to be perfectly fine with Mansour. Just maybe if he wants to incorporate a higher quality or a higher level of zone coverage ability, he's going to look at Chris Johnson there at pick 20 over Mansour Delane here at 12. We're going to go Mansour Delane there. Number 13 for the Los Angeles Rams. I think they're going to be comfortable with the idea of Mekhi Lemon, even though he might give some people the EBGBs. It's very possible. But Jordan Tyson does have that medical red flag dealing with that hamstring. I still think that he's on the board for him. I honestly do. Spencer Fano, you do have one more year left of Warren McClendon. You could end up talking about Spencer Fano playing guard or center for you in the short term and try to have him be the tackle in the long. It's up in the air. Jermon McCoy, again, we always assume that he's going to be super duper high. We haven't seen him since in 450 days, and he's not doing drills at the combine. That has to be at least a red flag to some people. But I do think wide receiver is going to be the move, because this team needs to continue to replenish. Devontae Adams doesn't have an extremely long career, loaded up in front of him. So it's between Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, and Omar Cooper Jr., because Omar tested phenomenally well, and he is getting a ton of hype. I will say, though, I think he's only had over 80 yards against like a handful of crap teams until like this year. So there's going to be that production aspect. Jordan Tyson, even with the medicals, I think he's a better player than Mekhi Lemon. And he fits perfectly. He has that 6'2 frame. He actually has the same measurables damn near as Carnell Tate. So really good measurables. Maybe try to trade back and get him, but sometimes you just got to take the risk. And the Rams are in win now. Maybe Jordan Tyson doesn't last more than 5 years in the NFL being competitive, but the Rams don't have that much longer of a Super Bowl window, at least for the meantime. And if that ends up becoming an issue, I can guarantee you a couple good years from Jordan Tyson in the Super Bowl window are going to be worth the 13th overall pick that essentially was a free selection. Number 14, Baltimore Ravens. A lot of people want Mekhi Lemon here. I think that's perfectly reasonable. However, I am starting to look at Peter Woods. He's going to be a nasty penetrator. Pause. But he also is extremely strong. He would be the Tyre Tart for Minter. And I do really like that fit. I think there also needs to be a discussion of Ioane here. Although I will say Declan Doyle's offense needs a little bit more mobility. That ends up landing me on Spencer Fano, the tackle slash center slash guard out of Utah. The Ravens, surprisingly, if you guys haven't heard, might be losing Tyler Linderbaum, who seems to continue to raise his average per year ask by like $5 million a day. This is the best. This is a Eric DaCosta to a T. You can kick him to guard immediately or center. Either way, you're getting yourself a 5-star player, a superstar talent who just passes the eye test like it's no one's business. Number 15 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A really interesting spot because honestly, there's some good players here. I don't know how PFF still has Cassius Hall at number 19 on their board. Just personally, I don't get it. But like Peter Woods is an intriguing choice, right? They're just the best player available. He's just a damn good, reliable player. Like I don't mind that. Linebacker-wise, I don't know how CJ Allen is looked at as a 14th best player. Again, it's perfectly fine. We all have our boards. My dumbass has Malachi Lawrence high. Granted, this is something where the mock draft simulator would use this as a predictive thing. I'm just going to put that out there. Mine is not predictive. I just got to make some things pretty clear. I don't like this selection for the Buccaneers. Long story short, I really don't like it. Edge rusher-wise, Akeem Mesidor might end up trying to basically be what David Walker could have been last year. Keldrick Falk, I just think he's not going to be productive early enough for Todd Bowles not to get fired. And you need something that is a short-term boost to the team. And linebacker, I don't think that you could take Jacob Rodriguez here. I don't think you could take CJ Allen here. It's way too early. This is a horrible pick. It is the worst pick in the draft, and we're going to pick this up, but I haven't done a mock draft in a minute. I miss you guys. I want to hang out. But regardless, like this is just not a good spot. I think they just go after best player available. They went Emeka Egbuka last year, and talent-wise, Mekhi Lemon's the best here. I know that you might want to go somewhere else. There might be better choices. Maybe Peter Woods is the best option. However, I don't think anybody matches the value. You go off my board, again, Malachi Lawrence is going to be someone who's viewed as a little bit of a later selection than the first round, and maybe he can slip into the late first, but there's just looking at the guys who are on my board that makes sense here realistically. You're talking about Pregnon, you're talking about, then Mekhi Lemon, Caleb Lomu. I don't feel comfortable going after offensive linemen for the Buccaneers here. They could. But Mekhi Lemon could step in with Emeka Egbuka and create an insanely dynamic duo where Emeka Egbuka going to be on the boundary and Mekhi Lemon in the slot just tearing shit up. It's going to be impossible to cover these two. And I love the reliability. So for me, I'm hoping that Mekhi Lemon ends up actually being corrected in terms of his mannerisms. I have my own issues with him, but I just don't think it will affect the stock that much. 16 for the Jets, their first pick was Arvell Reese to play edge rusher for them. I think there's a chance Dylan Thieneman might be their next selection. This dude's an absolute freak. I mean, I didn't think so. I loved him, and I didn't think he had this talent. Dylan Thieneman has now entered my top 6, excuse me. He is tied with 5 with Ruben Bain. I loved Dylan Thieneman. He tested out athletically better than I've ever seen before. I didn't know he had that in him. But I like Peter Woods a little bit more. And I technically don't. I have Thieneman higher. But safety in this class is insane. Defensive interior is a little bit hot and cold. You could also talk about Caleb Lomu here. Well, honestly, I don't think Vera Tucker, based on the amount of mocks that are having guard, I don't think Vera Tucker is going to stay. Lomu has 33-inch arms. There's going to be some issues if he ends up wanting to play tackle, especially on this team. We're going to go Ioane, guard out of Penn State. We're going to go with the same old pick, and we're going to go safe and risky. Risky at 2, safe at 16. 17 for the Detroit Lions. I still think left tackle is going to be the position they care about the most. And I saw them personally talk to Caden Proctor at the Shrine Bowl. It's right in front of me. I heard it. I know they actually want to talk with him. I know they have an interest in him. And he tested out phenomenally well. He really did. He's 350 pounds. He's a solid mover. He has a lot of strength in his arms. 25 bench press reps. I was hoping for more, but he does have long arms. He is a very solid prospect. And I know it sucks to take him here, but tackle's not something that you mess around with. And Caden Proctor, for as much crap as I can talk about him and why I'm maybe not comfortable with him this high in the draft, I'm a lot less comfortable with nothing at left tackle than I am with someone who I still think is a top 60 player in the class playing left tackle. It's a lot better than the alternatives. And the ceiling is a hell of a lot better than the alternatives. So I'm going to go Caden Proctor here, left tackle out of Alabama. Obviously, there's also those fun little gadget plays that you can end up trying to score with Caden Proctor, but for the meantime, I do really need to replace that left tackle spot unless you guys somehow sign Trent Williams. If that's the case, then we're going to end up looking at someone like Akeem Mesidor or Keldrick Falk to end up playing that edge too. Number 18 for the Minnesota Vikings. This one's almost a run into the podium at this point. Dylan Thieneman, safety out of Oregon. Again, top 10 player on my board. Number 6, tied number 5 on my board. This dude, absolutely awesome. Produced in 2023 as a true freshman. Ended up moving positions. Had a down year in 2024. Still productive. Ends up going in 2025 to Oregon, where he plays a multitude of different positions. A very unique split. And even in the box. And he still dominates. And I love that about him. He is so ready for the NFL. If he goes at number 12, I don't mind it. I actually really do like it. Number 19, Carolina Panthers. A lot of good choices here. A lot of good ones. I don't mind it for you guys, but I think getting Tershawn Wharton's ass out of there, getting Peter Woods in there. I know you don't take defensive players from Clemson, but this is not a defensive player from Clemson. This is a superstar from Clemson. He's sub 300 pounds. Yeah, he looked like it. Look at a picture of him from last year to this year. He was kind of a fat ass last year. Just going to call it out. Dude looked kind of in shape this year. He looked really good. I wish he did some testing. Maybe there was something where he's still trying to recomp his build. It is very tough when you lose 15 pounds to end up being the same player. I regraded him. He ends up dropping to 8 on my board. I still love his talent. I see the upside is too good to pass on. And when you have Derek Brown there, it doesn't require this guy to be Batman. It requires him to be an elite Robin. And this guy could just be Batman 2.0 with Derek Brown leading the charge. I think this will end up creating a lot of havoc, and it's a great addition for the value. Number 20 for the Cowboys, their first pick was Mansour Delane. Again, my advisement would be to trade back if possible here. However, we have not done that. We are not doing that. Akeem Mesidor could be a short-term fill, but he will be 25 years old. I don't really think that an offensive head coach is going to just let his new DC pretty much select as many players as he wants, especially outside of the level of competition. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, honestly, still a fantastic player. Didn't test as well as maybe Thieneman did, but he is somebody who everyone knew going into the combine was not going to test as a crazy athlete. That's his only issue. He's a good but not great athlete, and that's exactly how he tested. So it's the exact player that you're looking at. So we already fixed the corner position. Other positions you could target is that right tackle spot, which you do have Iheanacho, Blake Miller. I know there's some other right tackles as well that you can try to target, crown over, not at this pick, of course, but Emil Wagner. Like there are right tackle targets for you to go after, but feels a bit rich. I don't think that's the case. Running back, you already re-signed it. Edge rusher, again, like Keldrick Falk's not a bad choice here. It really is not. He's a high floor edge, and even in a Vic Fangio system, he's still going to have a ton of value. So I don't mind that at all. He is a young player. It's between Keldrick Falk and then Emmanuel McNeil-Warren for me. When you look at this safety class, are you going to find an Emmanuel McNeil-Warren in the 3rd round? Or I don't even think you have a day 2 pick. In the 4th round, you could find one with Cole Wisniewski. That's a pretty ballsy bet because there's not many others that have that level of legit day 1 starter potential that I have my faith in, like Cole Wisniewski. At edge rusher, there's going to be a lot of dudes who fall. Mesidor's older. Keldrick Falk doesn't have the pass rush bag. Still a good player. TJ Parker, really solid player. I don't mind it if they take him here. Would feel like Jalen Phillips. Honestly, probably my leader for it outside of McNeil-Warren. But you go down and you look at what's going to be there in the 4th round. You got, Kieran Crawford, Jayshawn Barham. Like, you do have options there that I do feel comfortable with. Mason Reiger, like Wesley Williams. There's some good players that, in my opinion, you can end up drafting there. And I'm going to let Christian Parker end up getting his 2 super weapons because redefining this defense is extremely important. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren ends up revamping that secondary for the Cowboys. 21, Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, we're going to be picking this up a little bit. Just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what we've talked about over the past couple of days. I do think that the Steelers are on the market for Ty Simpson. He had a really solid combine throwing session. Not that big of a deal to me. Doesn't move the needle for me. However, I do have Ty Simpson at 29 on my board. This is well within striking range. The Steelers should be open to a QB. But if we want to look at the wide receivers, you have Concepcion, you have Boston. Omar Cooper Jr. started to make a lot of sense here. He is supposed to be a true number 2, and DK was supposed to be the number 1. Omar Cooper Jr. provides a lot of the value that DK doesn't really have. DK is not necessarily someone to take a ball in short range and then, outside of his speed, be able to make guys miss and go to the house. He is someone who can do that, but it's because of his speed, not because of anything else. Omar's 4.42, insane after the catch, like a running back, and he's a reliable route runner and makes incredible catches. To me, he is the next wide receiver to go. And number 22 for the Los Angeles Chargers. By the way, we brought in a ton of guys for interviews as well in this top receiving group. It's pretty clear that we're at least open to taking someone round 1. At 22, though, for the Chargers, offensive line is going to be crucial to me. You end up looking at the guys available, and Emmanuel Pregnon does stick out. He didn't test necessarily well, but when you watch the tape, it's awesome. He's a day 1 starter. I'd prefer Lomu, but I think he's going to go to a team that prefers offensive tackle length or a team that has the upside of being a true offensive tackle. And that's just not this team. So you're looking at the guys. So it's going to be Emmanuel Pregnon here most likely. You look at Caleb Banks, though, you haven't had a true nose since Puna Ford, and this guy has insane athleticism. This is someone that could redefine how the defense is made and ran. And honestly, I think I need to give him a little more respect than what he's gotten. We're going to go Caleb Banks at 22 to be the monster nose for the Chargers. At 23 for the Eagles. Interesting way the board fell. You see an older veteran, a younger guy here in Keldrick Falk, who could end up being an edge rusher, but doesn't necessarily fit the system. TJ Parker is perfect for Jalen Phillips, but it looks like that's what you guys are going to re-sign. So if you do re-sign Jalen Phillips, which I hope you do, I think you need to be looking at corner. And I'm looking at Chris Johnson, man. He ran a 4.4 flat, and he's an elite zone coverage corner and has the best hands in the entire class. I'm telling you, from an eye test, the ball, once it touches Chris Johnson's hands, does not move. It is locked in there. He has magnets for gloves. I freaking love Chris Johnson, and he's perfect for a boundary corner in a Vic Fangio system. And what you need desperately is a high-end corner too. I will say this, and it's the one reason why I don't feel very comfortable taking him here. Are you going to pay 3 corners when Q is up, when Coop is up, when Chris Johnson is up? Are you going to have 3 of them on your team? Now, it's a good problem to have, but it is something where it's like, well, is this going to be the best strategy? But we did just see a team go to the Super Bowl, both of them with elite secondaries. It is pretty obvious in a passing league, even though like it's a higher run rate than ever, these corners matter a lot. This secondary matters a lot. I don't know why the ADP is 56.9. I don't get it. But he has 1 dropped interception, and he has 4 of them on the past year. So he should have had 5. This is the best fit that you're going to get. I know Jermon McCoy's here. He is falling because of the fact that he is not competing. There are players who are competing, and they're doing damn well. And I'm going to reward him for it. We're going to go Chris Johnson here. 4.4, incredibly smooth, reliable hands, perfect fit for Vic Fangio's system. Number 24, Cleveland Browns, their first pick, Monroe Freeling. And they have their selection of wide receivers here. A lot of very good ones. You know, I'm looking at Casey Concepcion as a primary target. He grew up in Buffalo. He's kind of used to the cold. Hasn't played there in a while, but does need to work on his hands a little bit. I think he's going to be a great option there for the Browns. Number 25 for the Chicago Bears. This is their first selection. Keldrick Falk is literally a perfect Dennis Allen edge rusher. He's young. He's dynamic. People want to try to knock him for not being a great pass rusher. That's fine. He still did get a 12% pass rush win rate, which is above average. And he still does get pressures and stuff. It's just worse than the year before. And that's why he goes at 25 instead of at number 5. If he was getting better and better and he has that frame, there's a chance he goes a lot earlier than this. Number 26, Buffalo Bills. We are seeing Jermon McCoy slip here. It is very possible. I'm just going to put that out there. It is very possible. Edge rusher wise, I feel very confident in the edge rushers on the board not fitting this new Leonard system. And the fact that, like, I just prefer to go after, veterans at this point that could play it a little bit better than what you have. I do know one of the guard spots is going to be open. So there is the possibility of Emmanuel Pregnon, who is an instant fit. Linebacker as well, though. CJ Allen is here. It's very possible that it's him or Rodriguez as the next linebacker selected. But a lot of people think CJ Allen is a superstar in the making. I think he's a very good linebacker. I think Jacob Rodriguez is better. And honestly, after seeing the testing, after seeing how he ended up covering tight ends at the Senior Bowl, I have a lot more faith in him. I'm going to go Jacob Rodriguez at number 26 to the Buffalo Bills. Number 27 for the San Francisco 49ers. Corner, safety, edge, all open. Jermon McCoy is here, and he does kind of fit the Renardo Green build of a boundary cornerback. And it is at the point where the Niners could be convinced in that. However, they got rid of their left tackle. Caleb Lomu is here. We're going to take him. Number 28, Houston Texans got rid of Titus Howard. Acquired a running back today. Overpaid for him, but you know what? They haven't had a running back in a hot minute that's actually worth their grain, their weight in salt. So, I think they're honestly doing a pretty solid job. It's, again, an overpay. That's okay. In my opinion, they ended up getting a lot in return. Defensive interior-wise, I don't think anybody ends up jumping off the screen as being worth it. I would end up saying that, edge rusher is not going to be a primary concern for them. Linebacker is. I mean, again, it's Pregnon or CJ Allen at this point based on the talents available. You could talk about Blake Miller here because technically that right tackle spot is open. Honestly, Ihanator as well, freak athlete. Ihanator does remind me a lot of Ursary. We're going to go Max Ihanator here. Right tackle out of Arizona State. Like, he does remind me, in terms of the bigger size, the athleticism. Maybe he's a little bit older, but he's new to football. So you think about body age, it's going to be a little bit less battered than the guys who've been playing for 10, 15 years at this point. 29 for the Rams, first pick, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver at Arizona State, second selection. Ty Simpson's still here. I still think that it's a very strong chance you could try to take him. I'm going to look at Jermod McCoy at this point. Avion Terrell did not test necessarily well, but I mean, I am open to the idea of Avion Terrell over Jermod McCoy. I just don't think that the Rams would pass up on the opportunity to draft a Jalen Ramsey here. So we're going to go after Jermod McCoy at 29. And before you say I'm crazy, injured players fall every single year. It is very possible that in a very solid corner class, some teams say, I'd rather take the healthy guy who has a very similar talent level. It does happen. It is very possible for it to happen. Number 30, Denver Broncos. CJ Allen is here. It's hard to say no to him. You could try to go after Nakeem Mesidor to just provide early returns. I just don't really think that that's going to be the primary concern here. We're going to go after CJ Allen because at number 31, I would have taken it with the Patriots, and that's a primary competitor. You're choosing between the Patriots going after CJ Allen or Akeem Mesidor / TJ Parker. Mesidor doesn't have the longevity of career that Parker does, and Parker has a similar talent level. So I'm going to just basically say I like TJ Parker a little bit more. We're going to go after TJ Parker here, edge rusher out of Clemson, because I just don't know if they're going to go another offensive line in the first. And the Patriots' whole entire reason they got to the Super Bowl was because of their defensive identity. I think they continue that with TJ Parker. At 32 for the Seahawks, honestly, you could look at Avion Terrell here based on the value, Brandon Cisse for sure. I don't mind it, but I do think that this is a team that will end up trying to continue to repatch its offensive line and maintain at least some sort of continuity there. And the right guard spot was ass. It really is. Bradford, get him out of there. For me, I think the rest of the offensive line is pretty much set. And Pregnon, even if he's older, is a phenomenal talent. I'm locking him in there at 32. 33 for the Jets, Arvell Reese, Vega, Yowane. At number 33, you could try to throw a dart at Ty Simpson, but with 3 firsts next year, that seems like a little bit of a waste. So you can talk about Akeem Mesidor here. I don't really think that that's the move I'm going to make because I do like Arvell Reese off the edge. Akeem Mesidor from the interior feels like a waste. Avion Terrell, not a bad idea. Aaron Glenn is, I believe, a former defensive back. Could be very open to that. But we've already gone after some trenches. We could go after a wide receiver here. Denzel Boston is on like an all-time hate streak. I still think he's a very reliable target and a very good wide receiver 3 in this system, only because I have faith in A.D. Mitchell to be the 2. So he's going to be off the bat a reliable 2 for whatever quarterback's there, probably Kyler Murray. And so I'm going to go Denzel Boston at the top of the second. It's not going to be everyone's favorite pick, but I still think it's a damn good one. At 34 for the Cardinals, CeCe Maui Noah, right tackle to Miami, was there in the first. Here in the second, honestly, you might want to just optimize or like maximize your potential with Akeem Mesidor, but again, you're going to be talking about somebody who's a bit on the older side, and you have a large amount of edge rushers on your team to where I don't feel the need to press that hard into that area. So I'm not like overwhelmed in that regard. Looking at some areas where you could end up continuing to develop, you could try to continue building the interior of the offensive line. Like for me, I could try to just maximize value like Caden McDonald here, just get a reliable defensive interior. Like it's a very weird position to be in. Anthony Hill, a lot of people like the upside there. Again, we're talking about an offensive coach here. So there's also that factor that we need to start playing into this. And, it's very uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable spot because I don't think there's a good option here that I would love outside of Ty Simpson. Like I would try to make that competition. However, I don't think he ends up being here because, well, hold on. Ty Simpson's a good pick. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. LaFleur's from LA, and I think Ty Simpson's a great fit in an LA system. Yeah, if you don't have a QB, why not take him there at the top of the second? Look at me. I was like, I don't think there's a good pick. One right in front of my face that I'm talking about. 35 for the Tennessee Titans. Jeremiah Love was the first round selection. You do have some really good options here in round 2. A lot of people love Chris Brazzell. He's right down the street. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, don't draft Tennessee wide receivers. I'm not the biggest guy in Chris Brazzell, but this guy is 6'5". He runs a 4.3 40, and he's able to cut on a dime. There are going to be people who really want him as high as their wide receiver 1. I'm definitely not there. However, I understand it. But I also understand that Akeem Mesidor could end up just being what Jermaine Johnson gets replaced by next year. Like, it is very possible you could do that. Zion Young, very similar. Like, you do have opportunities here. And then you can talk about Caleb Tiernan as a potential left tackle replacement in a year. Malachi Lawrence, you want him to develop a little more run defense capabilities, but he ends up testing out through the roof. I love Malachi Lawrence, especially on his fit to the Titans. So there's some definitely good options here. I don't think there's like a really bad move. Like Zion Young feels like the most Robert Saleh style edge rusher. I think that, he has the physical foundation that you're looking for. He has that like slightly something wrong with him kind of approach. So like, I personally think he's going to be an absolute savage. But like wide receiver, like I don't really feel like reaching on Chris Brazzell here because there's a lot of very good startable wide receivers that you can take in the third. I feel like right now we can end up looking at Avion Terrell as well. The corner course sucks. And honestly, that's probably a better idea. Let's just go after Avion Terrell, corner out of Clemson. Just get a high floor option for a really weak secondary. It's a great way to just kind of build the foundation for something awesome. 36 for the Vegas Raiders. First pick, Fernando Mendoza. Second selection. Your defensive coordinator is a defensive line coach, so I know he's going to care about that. Edge rusher matters. I don't think you bring an older Akeem Mesidor into the building. I think offensive line-wise, you guys are going to end up redoing that yourself through free agency. Defensive interior is not bad. I mean, Caden McDonald's fantastic value at this point, and I know they're switching to a 3-4. So honestly, the value's right. I mean, he's not going to be a high-tier pass rusher. He's not bad at it, but he is just going to be a tone setter in the middle, and he just feels like a Vegas Raider. I don't know why. So we're going to go after Caden McDonald to provide at least a talent floor. 37 for the Giants. First pick was Sonny Styles. Second selection here. Honestly, based on the talent available, I'm willing to go after Blake Miller here. You might have Jermaine Illuminor come back for a year, but I'd rather have a competition and then draft my tackle the future than basically sit on my ass and just pray that a veteran ends up continuously filling a need that I have yet to do. I love Marcus Bowe, friend of the show. I don't really think that he's the long-term answer at right tackle just based on a multitude of factors. And so I just prefer to go that route. Again, wide receiver-wise, I believe in Chris Bell. I just know that this team will need some more instant results. And this is Harbaugh that we're talking about. He ended up drafting in a couple years ago in the second round a tackle that had a very similar profile to Blake Miller and Roger Rosengarten. Athletic, longer armed, pass protector type. So this is honestly right up his alley as well. Number 38, Houston Texans. First picked, Max Ihanachor. I'm very happy with that move for them. Linebacker-wise, I think Anthony Hill could be up their alley, but I also think that defensive interior-wise, you look at Lee Hunter and Christian Miller, and you get excited. Lee Hunter just didn't test very well, so he's going to probably be looked at as more of a nose, which I don't like in this system. Christian Miller is a freak show. I mean, you look at the tape, this dude is an absolute monster. I don't know why he's not getting more love. Seriously, I have no idea. He's my number 15 player on my board. He has huge wins, and that's worth investing in. We're going to go Christian Miller there, defensive interior out of Georgia. Number 39, Cleveland Browns. First pick, Monroe Freeling. Second pick, Casey Concepcion. It's hard to pass on Akeem Mesidor at this point, but again, age does matter. It does. He had a super late breakout, and there's a lot of really solid players that are of equal or similar talent. I just don't think that's going to be as attractive. So I still think they continue to invest on the interior of the offensive line or in the tackle room as well. With the fact that I think Titus Howard was acquired today, he's someone who could play guard or tackle. I think Caleb Tiernan's in the same boat. So I got Monroe Freeling and Caleb Tiernan to play guard and tackle for me. You have also Tyus Howard. You're starting to rebuild that offensive line with a ton of really, really reliable talent. If you wanted to look elsewhere, honestly, I just don't really see a ton of value outside of that. I mean, wide receiver wise, we've gone over it over the past few picks. I just don't see the return on investment there. So, I mean, again, you could just go best player available, Akeem Mesidor. It's one of the areas I feel very comfortable with this team currently. But good players fall. It happens every time. We're going to go after more offensive line here with Caleb Tiernan and just keep it a very offensively focused draft. Could have went Brandon Cisse, to be fair. But number 40 for the Kansas City Chiefs, first pick was Kenyon Sadiq. This is where we're going to take Akeem Mesidor, edge rusher out of Miami, call it a day, end up providing that pass rush help there. Zion Young, very possible as well, but either way, you're getting a damn good one. Reuben Bain Jr. was the first selection for the Cincinnati Bengals. Really happy with that. Honestly, I think he'll end up thriving there. So looking at other positions to grab, safety is very possible. I just don't think until like the third round, you can go after a Bud Clark there. I just don't really see the return on investment that way. I think they will try to bring something in on the offensive side, but I've been poaching offensive linemen like it's no one's business, and I'm not really ready to try to target another one yet. So I'm looking at other options for this team. And I think nickelback is certainly possible. And that's what Keith Abney would provide. He's someone who can play on the nickel or boundary. He's 5'10". But Colton Hood also. Colton Hood is really flexible. I like him on the boundary. You can play him and Dax Hill out there. I think the value is just too good to pass on. We're going to go Colton Hood there at 41. Some people like him as high as the 20s. Again, really good corner class. Not going to be like the easiest, or like they're going to be dudes who fall. Happens every draft. 42, New Orleans Saints, first pick, Carnell Tate. In a 3-4 system, I don't mind going after someone like Lee Hunter at this point to play that nose. Honestly, with the edge rushers for the 3-4 outside linebackers, I think you could end up having a field day waiting. But I'm going to give love to one of my friends in actual real life, but also in the industry, Malachi Lawrence, edge out of UCF. He's 253 pounds, 6'4", runs a 4.5 240, jumps 40 inches, and he has one of the best pass rushing toolkits in the game. So I'm going to give some love to him. He's a top 10 player on my board, and he's a great fit for a Brandon Staley defense. Number 43, Miami Dolphins, first pick, Caleb Downs. Second selection here, I'm going to go after Brandon Cisse, corner out of South Carolina. I'm just maximizing on edge or on corner talent. Edge would be a good idea with Zion Young as well. But Zion Young does have a DWI on record. I'm going to take the upside of Brandon Cisse. 44, New York Jets. First pick, Arvell Reese. Second pick, Vega Ioane. Third pick, Denzel Boston. So fourth selection here. I really like Zion Young, but I can't get him. And neither can I get Lee Hunter because both those positions are kind of filled right now. I could still go Zion Young and just continue to say, like, I'm going to overload the defense here. But linebacker-wise, this is one of the best linebacker classes that we've seen in a hot minute. Aiden Fisher's phenomenal. Elam's Orr is great. You go down here, even Sherrar ended up testing through the roof. Jack Kelly's awesome. Justin Jefferson, more of a coverage guy, but still a fantastic linebacker. I don't even think they have the other Oklahoma linebacker listed, Kendall Daniels. Dude's awesome. Like 243 pounds as a safety. Is he listed as a safety? So Robert Spears Jennings, Kendall Daniels. There we go. So this dude is a hybrid linebacker nickelback. So 6'5", 242, like really fun linebacker hybrid. So I would definitely recommend at least being open to that. But corner-wise, though, I think the value is really, really good for Keith Abney. He might be 5'10", but the dude ends up playing ball as a boundary corner. You can kick him to the nickel if you need to, but he has the physicality that I know this defense loves. And you end up pairing him with the rush of Arvell Reese. You end up having two impact defensive players off the bat. He has the physicality that Azareye'h Thomas was sought out for. He is a culture fit guy. 45, Baltimore Ravens, Spencer Fano, first selection. Second pick here, Lee Hunter might just be the best player available, but I want to get some good edge talent, and Zion Young feels just like an Odafe Owe for this team. Feisty, dangerous, and going to be able to produce off the bat. 46 for the Buccaneers. First pick was Mekhi Lemon. And you look at the edge rushers here, and it makes me feel very good about my selection. Same thing with the linebackers. The question is, what linebackers are going to be available later on versus the edge rushers? And personally, I will say the edge rushers do drop in value in terms of guys I would want to start right away. Linebackers, there's some more flavors in there that I feel comfortable with. I'm looking at guys who end up fitting into the Hassan Reddick role, and Derek Moore provides extra size while not sacrificing any of the athletic capabilities. He was awesome in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl. I'm going to give him the nod here at 46. Technically could have done that 45. If you wanted to send Derek Moore back to his DC in Minter, send him back there and then swap it with Zion Young. I'm happy with either. 47, Colts. I know they're looking at edge rusher. Could also end up being an option they go with here. Lee Hunter, not a bad choice at all. Unfortunately, it's just a weird spot to be in, but you still have incredible linebackers here. Golday, you guys like Cincinnati players. Anthony Hill definitely has athletic potential. It's through the roof. He's 238 pounds. There's just a lot to work with here. And then Josiah Trotter is going to be a tone setter. Really good run defense linebacker there. I think all these guys deserve at least consideration here. I think they do go with a linebacker off the bat. And I do think they're going to go after the more experienced Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas. 48, Atlanta Falcons. This is their first selection. Honestly, Lee Hunter is here. I'm just running this into the podium. I know that it's, Stefanski's team. He might end up wanting to go a little bit crazier, but I think Lee Hunter, talent-wise, even with the down Senior Bowl, the up Senior Bowl, but the down combine, still ends up being at least an attractive option here at 48. At 49 for the Vikings, first pick was Dylan Thieneman. At this selection, could end up going after a corner here. D'Angelo Ponce is very, very possible with this 43.5-inch vertical. He is just under 5'9", but again, 185 pounds, much higher than what he was listed at. So, at least we end up having that on record. I will say you're cutting Aaron Jones. It is possible that you end up looking at a running back here. I think the second running back off the board will be Mike Washington. He's not really the most elusive guy in the world, but dude picks up speed. He's 225 pounds, and he is a dangerous, dangerous running back to have on your team. Jadarian Price just didn't test out athletically the way I was hoping for him to, and that sucks because he's a really, really good player. Defensive interior also, definitely something you can consider here. DeMonte Capehart is great for round 3. Honestly, might even sneak into he didn't have the year to garner a round 2 selection. So I think that center is also possible here. Connor Lew, I'm starting to think that there's going to be less of a need for center based on the guys who are available in the market. So I think it is tough. This is a very tough selection here. We ended up already going after safety for him. Running back has some talents. But, if Dave Montgomery's going for a 4th, it's pretty clear some people just don't have faith in the class. Linebacker might just be your best bang for your buck, honestly, and I'm probably going to go with that. Golday is phenomenal. Trotter is phenomenal. Pick your poison. I'm going to go after my higher linebacker here in Jake Golday, who still ran a 4.6 40, had good explosiveness numbers. Not the best in coverage, but someone who also can be blitzing as well. I love the idea of using him in multiple roles, and I know this defense loves to blitz. 50, Lions, Caden Proctor, first round. I know you're going to be like, eh. It's okay. Love you guys anyways. I think they're going to solve their center issue outside of the draft. So I'm not really going to focus on that. Otherwise, Connor Lew, I would just probably go double bang for your buck. Denai Dennis Sutton and Gabe Akis are the edge rushers that come to mind based on the talents available. Akis has the frame. He tested out very well. He ended up doing really well at the Senior Bowl. Feels just like an A+ type of guy. Denai Dennis Sutton, a ton of experience. And he is somebody who tested through the roof athletically. Very obvious, a top-tier athlete. But I do think Gabe Akis deserves at least consideration in this range. Other players that I would like to mention, you could talk about a running back here. I don't think they go that route. Again, you can talk about Connor Lew as well. Corner-wise, you can try to invest in someone like Davis Benosin, who's going to be a little bit of a bigger physical corner. I just personally think they go after an edge rusher here. Anzalone, I think, is up for a contract. So you could also look at a Trotter and just pair him up with Campbell. So There's options there. Let me know what you guys think would be the best choice, but I'm going to go Gabe Akis. Edge out of Illinois. I do believe also safety is on the table. Not necessarily the most reliably healthy safety core, and there's going to be opportunities open there. 51, Panthers, Peter Woods, first round. Second round, you got some pass rush from the interior. Could try to go after an edge rusher as well. I talked about denied Dennis Sutton here. I don't really think that's going to be like exactly what you're looking for. So looking at other options, I do think left tackle is something you could be open to. Oh, man, I did really take all the offensive linemen off the board. Lord have mercy. So maybe find a short-term fill at left tackle. I used to love Monroe Freeling to you guys, and then, well, that was a pipe dream. So anyways, wish I could help you out in that regard. Defensive interior already selected. Edge rusher, we already kind of like moved past that. Where can we go? Linebacker. Josiah Trotter's here. This is an organization that has a reverence for linebacker, a lot of respect for it. So you end up getting Josiah Trotter, and then you also have Peter Woods. Rundowns are going to be a breeze for this defense. Expect a lot of throwing, so maybe we need to start investing in some of those safeties with our free agency or with our other draft picks. But those rundowns are not going to be as much of a problem anymore. 52, Green Bay Packers. Defensive interior is not a bad move. I've taken pretty much all of them. So you now have a Jonathan Gannon-style defense. You're definitely looking at edge rushers as well. Deny Dennis Sutton does fit exactly what I think the Packers would be looking for, which is a high RAS type of player who has a ton of production, will be a day one starter. Like, this is a guy who's a no bullshit edge rusher. And I know for a fact, based on some edge rushers that I've talked to, they're interviewing pretty heavily. So they're looking at edge rusher, and they're looking at one for day two. Maybe it's not this pick. Maybe it's the next one. But I'm going to take it with this one because Deny tested through the roof. And again, he might not have had the best Senior Bowl in the world, but he also has so much day one impact that it's hard to quantify that versus maybe some of the higher ceiling, less developed edge rushers. You have someone who is experienced and a great athlete. Hard to pass that up at this spot. 53 for the Steelers. Omar Cooper Jr. was the first selection. Could just go Chris Bell. Just be like, guess what? That would be kind of crazy. I can't lie. It wouldn't be a bad move. I'm just going to say hand over heart would not be a bad move. But I do think for the Steelers, they're not going to look at a quarterback here. Like offensive tackle wise, I just don't think the value is right. Like Jennings Dunker, to me, like people still want to put him so high. I don't get that. I don't think they're going to look at a guard this early either. It really would be like defensive interior. If there was someone actually worth it, they would definitely be at least open to it. Edge rusher seems a little bit too early. Safety, we're already trying to do our thing right now with, Jalen Ramsey. So I would look at someone like Igbinosun or Pons as likely options. Pons is a Steeler through and through. Dude's a physical, dominant threat, and he can handle bigger wide receivers. He has the mentality of an AFC North corner. Same thing with Davison Igbinosun. Igbinosun is absolutely dominant as a boundary corner. He reminds me with how grabby he is, a lot of what Joey Porter Jr. was. So I do think he fits. And he does have a lot of experience under his belt. Thousands of reps in multiple positions. But we need a reliable boundary corner. And we got our wide receiver with Omar Cooper. We're going to go Davison Igbinosun, boundary corner out of the Ohio State University here in the second. 54 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Chris Johnson was the first selection. If AJ truly is on the board, Chris Bell is not a bad option here. If you really are uncomfortable with the future of AJ Brown, which has always been at the top of most people's minds, Chris Bell is a perfect wide receiver to draft here, where you end up sitting him for a year and he has the unreal talent that you can't pass on, and you never get this point in the draft. It is literally a perfect AJ Brown replacement. I'm just going to throw that out there. But offensive line does need to be looked at, the very minimum. And honestly, there's nobody here that stands out as somebody who I think you should take right away. Jennings Dunker would be fun, but I don't think that's the case. Safety-wise, you do need to replace, one of the exciting whites. It's unfortunate. Reed Blankenship is not going to be a primary target for you guys. AJ Halsey in the third round to me feels really good. Bud Clark is a good fit as well, but he is 190 pounds. I'd want someone a little heavier. Again, Wisniewski, I give him a shout out for day 3, but I like Halsey and Wheatley for that role. I would not want to go with another player, and none of them feel worth it right now. I do project that you guys end up going after Jalen Phillips and re-signing him. Defensive interior wise, again, nothing that is good enough for me to get on the team, especially with 1 year left of Jordan Davis as well as Moro Ajomo. So looking at the value here, tight end as well, Eli Stowers could be intriguing. He's not the standard Philadelphia Eagles tight end because he's a gadget player. And honestly, on tape, he does not look good. I'm just going to be so honest. He rounds all his routes. He doesn't look as explosive as what his tape suggests. He is damn good after the catch. But to me, he is still like a late day 2 player. I just got to put it out there that even though he's not the normal Eagles tight end, we have to look at the offensive coordinator and Sean Mannion and how he loved after the catch ability with Tucker Kraft as well as Luke Musgrave. So you do have to start adjusting a little bit for that. I will say, like Eli Raridan, I love his fit on this team because of the balance he provides. And then you look at someone like Michael Trigg in round 3. Trigg at their early 3rd makes a lot more sense to me than Stowers here. Just because he tested out like a freak at the combine doesn't mean he's going to translate to the NFL because he's going to be more of a slot tight end, an F tight end. Same thing with Michael Trigg, but I think that someone like Sam Roosh, Eli Raridan, going to be a little bit better value for that position. But I do think it's definitely a need. Running back, I'm not going to target that right now. So you look at safety, you look at edge. Again, the edge talent, I'm just assuming you guys re-sign. So I really do think I'm going to go after Chris Bell here. You went after a top-tier corner and Chris Johnson who's going to help right away. I'm going to go after Chris Bell here because this is a freak wide receiver. This is best player available. He might not be available for a little while, but he is going to be an elite ad when you do. You're getting a second first-round pick by taking him at 54. 55, Los Angeles Chargers, Caleb Banks the first. We got to look at offensive line in the second, and Chase Bazontis is here. Connor Liu is as well. It just depends on which position you want to really target. Keelan Rutledge deserves a shout. Some very good interior offensive line in the class, but I think Bazontis would be the next in line to go. 56 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Safety is very possible here. I do think they like the safety core that they do have. Newsome has not been the acquisition that you guys normally go after, and I love D'Angelo Pons. Now, you guys got... oh my God, I'm now blanking off the top of my head. But Jordan Lewis. He ended up being like a nickel boundary hybrid. And I think D'Angelo Pons would be a younger version of that. I love the tenacity he brings. You have him and you end up having Travis Hunter on the boundary. That's a really good trio of corners to have, plus some other guys developing in the wings. I think that's going to be very valuable to have. Ransaw should get back and healthy. I think Pons is going to be worth the investment there. And this feels like an organization that's willing to have the guts with Gladstone to do something like this. 57 for the Bears, first pick, Keldrick Falk. Easy peasy type of selection there. So here at number 57, I honestly think a linebacker is on the table for him. They could try to, get a little funky with it, but it is a weird spot. Like, I love Kyle Lewis. He's just 220 pounds. This is not a role that the Bears are really looking for. I mean, technically speaking, they could because nickelback is not necessarily great, but this is a nickel linebacker. So I would be definitely looking at Aiden Fisher in the next round. That's the way I would address the linebacker situation. I just don't think the value is good enough here. Don't need quarterback, don't need wide receiver, don't need tight end, don't really need a running back. And plus, you guys can try to take pot shots later on. You do need a left tackle in the short term. Once again, I just don't feel very comfortable with the long-term applications or even the short term of some of these guys. And so I don't really think offensive line's the move. So you end up going, and now we can start looking at those safeties. Halsey tested well enough to where I feel comfortable with him in this range. You are trying to, technically Wheatley as well. Bud Clark. Bud Clark's a beast. I think he deserves this one. He's 6'1", 188, but just a really fluid player, super smart in multiple different systems of coverage. And he's also pretty damn athletic. He tested out phenomenally well. I think that he deserves that post-combine bump. And he's just been super consistent everywhere he's been. And he can also work in the slot. So I'm going to give Bud Clark the nod here at 57. 58, we have the San Francisco 49ers who went Caleb Lomu there in the first round. I think here they're going to look at wide receiver and they're going to try to extend the field a little bit. They want some speed. They're going to get some with Chris Brazzell, the second out of Tennessee. 59, Houston Texans, Christian Miller, Max Ihanachor, the first two selections. Eli Stowers is a very unique option here, but I still think they're in the market for a running back because I hate to say it. I don't mean to be a dick, but Woody Marks is not going to, like, it's very clear they don't respect Woody Marks' role on this team. Jadarian Price still could end up being that, but I might hold off for a second and let's look at some other options. So, offensive line wise, honestly, with Jennings Dunker here, it is hard to pass on. Connor Lew as well. I'm going to go Connor Lew. We're going to go Jennings Dunker. He does have some guard length or tackle length, so at least you have that there. But he will be an interior offensive lineman. You can use him as center or guard. I think that's going to be a little bit better value, a higher floor option. At number 60, the Bills have gone Jacob Rodriguez so far. Wide receiver-wise, you do have Jeremy Bernard here. You have Zachariah Branch. You have guys like Cyrus Allen. Like, there's some really good wide receivers, including Ted Hurst. And this is a good range for Ted Hurst. He has the burner speed. He has good size. I don't know why he's ranked 169, but he is somebody who is in the low 4.4s, tests like crazy with the acceleration. Like, what people like about Chris Brazzell is Ted Hurst minus like an inch or two. Ted Hurst is like a really reliable receiver, and he has the speed and deep threat capabilities to really be able to be opened up for Josh Allen's big arm capabilities. 61, Los Angeles Rams, Jordan Tyson, Jermod McCoy, the first selections. Honestly, this is more of like a pleasure pick than anything because we're not going to be able to get anybody at right tackle for this team for like at least a developmental piece, which is not what you want at 16-1 anyways. I'm not seeing anything here. Like Traden Stukes is awesome. He's just a little bit older. Julian Neal, very reliable. Like there's some good players here. Charles Demings, I would love to be able to give him some love. But I will say with Cam Curl up for free agency, AJ Halsey is kind of a perfect replacement. He has had a big impact. He did have 3 interceptions this year. He was a very reliable player on a pretty up and down LSU team. And I think he'd be a great fit there. Tested out very well as well. For the fact that he is a little bit like not really known for that capability, I really love that. At 62 for the Broncos, I think Eli Stowers is right up their alley now. He might not be the blocker that they would hope for, but he is just, I mean, he is a gadget to a T. And I know Sean Payton's going to eat that shit up for breakfast. 63, New England Patriots, TJ Parker, the first selection. Guard-wise, Keelan Rutledge is honestly a fantastic option. You'd have to kick him over to left guard, but I don't really care too much about, like, I don't concern myself too much with that movement. So Keelan Rutledge absolutely is on the table here. You could talk about someone like Jeremy Bernard, but, I would want someone who could threaten deep. And Malachi Fields proved that he can't really do that based on his 40-yard dash not being great. Like, for me, I don't really feel comfortable with that. There's a lot of good wide receivers who have, like, the ability to threaten it deep. I don't really think that's going to be a big concern. So I'm actually going to go Keelan Rutledge here. He tested out well, great movement skills, very powerful. Going to be a tone setter there, and you can finally kick your left guard in Wilson into center. I think that's a good move. You could talk about some linebacker talent here as well, but I want to be able to build through both of the trenches. At 64 for the Seahawks, first pick was Emmanuel Pregnon. Second selection here. Honestly, there's a chance you really do lose out because you have a new system in there on Rashid Shaheed. Zachariah Branch is perfect for that. He didn't test like insanely well. He is, I believe, sub 5'9", but he is ridiculously talented and has that return capability. It is a pretty much it is a round boost for him to be able to have that type of talent. So I love his tape. I love the way he performs after the catch. I love the way he can perform in that role. Georgia just used him poorly. And so I'm going to give him the love and respect that he deserves. So that is going to be the video. Mike Washington was also in consideration there, but I think with the fumbling problem that I've had with him in big moments, I'm just going to hold off a little bit. Still a good option there, so feel free to debate that, but that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Showing the love you always do. I'll see you later. Peace.